If you despise the yellow line rule, well then I got some bad news for you. We also got Hélio Castroneves talking about potentially joining NASCAR, and a popular midfield team could be leaving the sport very soon. Welcome all. Welcome. It is the very first episode of February 2022. Welcome to Inside the Lines. My name is Jet. Hope you're all having a wonderful day. Of course, before we get into tonight's episode, if you haven't already, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe for more content. And leave your comments on any of the stories I talked about in this video. I love seeing the feedback, the communication. Really want to start engaging with more of y'all. So if you haven't already, after this video, make sure you like and subscribe, and of course leave your comments, because we have some stories that I'm pretty sure are gonna invoke a lot of fan interaction. The first one is regarding Atlanta. Now we all know Atlanta. We know what the future is gonna look like for that racetrack. It's gonna be a mini Daytona Talladega, shorter racing surface, higher banking, with the emphasis of producing more super speedway type racing. This is only further going to be confirmed by this tweet that Bob Parker's posted yesterday that says that Scott Miller says that there will be a double yellow line rule implemented for the Atlanta races, but only at different portions of the racetrack. And he also mentions that there will be no locking bumpers rule. So for example, like when the Xfinity Series and Truck Series, you're not allowed to lock bumpers. That rule will not apply at Atlanta. But the part that is interesting is the only certain parts of the racetrack will have the yellow line rule. What I'm assuming is, simply put, that the parts of the racetrack that will have the yellow line rule will be the front straightaway and the back straightaway, especially the back straightaway, since there is a lot of racing service. And let's say, hypothetically, there's going to be a super speedway type of race, like a Daytona or Talladega type of race of Atlanta, which there won't be, by the way. But let's say, hypothetically, there is. Well, the back straightaway, there is a ton of asphalt surface. Yes, the racing surface may have shortened, but there is still a ton of asphalt surface. So I won't be surprised if you see drivers maybe go downward so low to the Bermuda Triangle in the back straightaway to try and make a pass. And obviously, with Atlanta being much smaller, it's a mile and a half racetrack compared to Daytona and Talladega, 2.5 and 2.66 miles in length. Having cars go that low off the racing surface could be very dangerous when they're trying to merge their way back up on track entering turn 3. So I can understand to a point why the yellow line rule is implemented. Now, again, the issue with the yellow line rule is that there's such a gray area. Like it's a judgment call, which I despise. I hate it when when penalties or rules are more or less judgment calls, because NASCAR is extremely inconsistent with the yellow line rule. That's issue number one. If they were consistent, we wouldn't have a big deal, but they're not. So that's why we hate this rule. But it will be very interesting to see how this rule will be enforced, because again, this would really only work if you have 3 wide, 4 wide racing all the time, which again, I don't think that's going to happen at Atlanta. I don't think you're going to see super speedway style of racing unless you bring down the car speed to about 300 horsepower and make them go full throttle. Other than that, I just don't see how that's possible, but that's an issue for another day. But yeah, that's just a little update. If you hate the yellow line rule, well, it looks like you have to deal with it now 6 times a year instead of just 4. Up next, Hélio Castroneves from Brazil, coming high off of his Rolex 24 win at Daytona last Sunday with Meyershank Racing. And he's coming off 2 incredible years, especially at the age he's in, for the fact that he's winning these extremely high caliber races. He won the last 2 Rolex 24 races at Daytona, and of course he won the 2021 Indianapolis 500 also with Meyershank Racing. But now he's looking at potentially taking his talents to NASCAR. Take a listen.
You guys know that I'm a big fan of any type of racing, right? Something that I never did, and I understand. It's a completely different car, different. And Roger Penske, I drove for him for over 21 years, and probably what he did was making the right decisions, not me to do it, but he never let me drive a Cup car. And I said,
"Oh, here
why
we go."
not? And I know, I swear to God, I always ask him, and I stayed there for a long time, and I didn't ask like repeatedly. Like I wait for 1 or 2 years, and then when he said no, another 2 years. Hey, what about this? Maybe there is a test that I can do. Just who knows? Until finally he said, no, I'm not gonna let you do that. And but now now I don't, I can't. I feel that when I drove the SRX and drove in dirt, and which was really cool. I had a great time last year. I said, why not? Why not try the Daytona 500, or some sort of a road course or whatever it is. So that would be something. That would be something I would like to try, because I feel that I would definitely check that box on my bucket list.
Now, yes, of course, nothing is confirmed, obviously, but it is something that he is taking a hard look at, which I'm not surprised. I've always felt like Castroneves would be the type of driver, kind of like a Montoya type of figure, to be able to, at the very least, try new different things. We did see him venture into sports car racing when his time in Penske full-time in IndyCar came to an end around 2017, 2018. He was able to be very successful there. He technically does have some stock car experience. He competed in a race back in 2012 in stock car Brazil. Yes, it's nothing like NASCAR, but it's still a stock car race. And he also just finished competing in the SRX, racing in cars that we see a lot of NASCAR drivers competing in. So he's got some experience on that, and also has some experience on dirt racing in Knoxville and Eldora. So I feel like ever since he was no longer with Team Penske and joined Meyer Shank Racing, Castroneves has started to become more versatile as a racing driver, being able to compete in different series and being really good at it. We've seen it with sports car racing, and even in the SRX, for as little experience he has racing in those types of cars at those types of racetracks, he did pretty good, I believe so. So I'm not surprised to hear him say that he wants to try NASCAR sometime in the future, whether it is competing on a road course, which I think will more likely be the case. The Daytona 500, obviously that would be incredible to have a driver as huge as Castroneves. It would be awesome for the sport to see him compete in the 500. Will it happen? I highly doubt that. I just don't see that's possible. But again, I would love for that to happen. But yeah, even at the age of 46, Castroneves ain't slowing down by any means. So, but yeah, it would be very awesome to see him compete in NASCAR. Maybe pull a route like Sage Karam did, because with Sage, he competed on the Indy road course in NASCAR for Jordan Anderson Racing, I believe it was. Is now going to be competing in more NASCAR races for the team in 2022. And again, it's nothing new. We've seen IndyCar drivers in the past compete in NASCAR. There's a whole list of them. Patrick Carpentier, Dario Franchitti, Juan Montoya. In fact, Sam Hornish Jr. There was a whole list of them in 07, 08. So it's nothing new to see IndyCar drivers test their water in NASCAR. So again, if it happens, I won't be surprised. I would love for that to take place. But we're just going to have to wait and see what the next chapter of Castroneves' career looks like. Right now, he's going to be focused on IndyCar, competing full-time with Meyer Shank Racing to try and maybe win back-to-back Indy 500s this May. Now on to our big story. Now this took place late last night at around 10:30. This was when I first heard this on Reddit. Someone posted the latest episode of The Teardown with Jordan Bianchi and Jeff Gluck from The Athletic. And they mentioned near the end of the episode JTG Daugherty Racing, which is one of the most popular midfield teams in the Cup Series. They've been part of Cup Series racing since 2008. They went by their own team in 2009. And Jordan Bianchi discussed that there's a possibility that JTG may be coming to an end.
Maybe from a broader view is there's been a lot of, how committed is JTG to NASCAR? There's been a lot of, I think not even rumors. It's a fact. Like, they have had conversations about getting out. So those conversations probably aren't going to go away, because there's a lot of people that want to come into NASCAR right now and are looking at it. This is a charter that can be had. And so, as this is going on, what is the commitment level here? And, I talked to Brad Daugherty last year, and he was very candid with me saying, we don't get really anything from Chevrolet in terms of factory support, those kind of things. That hasn't changed. So where does JTG fit in the hierarchy of Cup teams right now? I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. All right. Lots of stuff to talk about there. So this obviously was, on one side, it was a shock, but at the same time, you could almost sense it was kind of leaning in that direction. First off, you have to understand that the last 2 years of JTG have been nothing but stable. In 2019, there already had been talks about them potentially selling one of their charters, the 37 car charter, to another team. And then 2020, they had a 2-car operation, but the 37 car was an open car. There was no charter for that car that Ryan Preece was competing in. And then this year, they scale back to a one-car team. And according to Jordan Bianchi, that the team for a long time now has had very little to factory support from Chevrolet. And so when you consider the fact that the team has not been really producing any results, they've been, at the very least, they have almost been stagnated. They've almost been, they haven't improved, but they also haven't lost any ground. They've just stayed in the middle. And the fact that they've been having these discussions for a while now, not just as of late, but for a while now, makes me think that maybe the end of JTG is not that far ahead in the future. Maybe in a couple of years from now. I'm not saying it's going to be at the end of this year, but 2023, 2024, who knows? It could be the end for JTG. The fact that they've been having these discussions for quite a while now. You don't discuss selling your team like that. You don't discuss it like that unless you're Starcom. But if you're going to sell off a team or at least shut down a team and leave the sport, that's going to take some time to really digest, make sure if it's the right move, and what to do on how to sell your team so that when you do leave, you get the most amount of money. Now, of course, with the introduction of the charter system, now there's an actual price tag to selling your team. We saw that with Chip Ganassi Racing. He got millions of dollars from selling his NASCAR team over to Team Trackhouse. So let's talk hypothetically. Let's say in a scenario, all right, JTG, they're done with NASCAR and they leave. Okay. What happens next? Well, they could go one of three ways. Number one, someone or an existing team could buy a charter from JTG and expand their operation. For example, Colleague Racing. They currently have only one full-time entry in the Cup Series with Justin Haley, and they have 3 part-timers competing in one car, in the 16 car. AJ Allmendinger, Daniel Hemrick, and Noah Gragson. Gragson, to me, seems like the likely candidate. If anyone is going to move up to the Cup Series from the Xfinity Series, Gragson, I feel like, would be the most likely candidate. And let's say JTG does sell off their charter to NASCAR and lead the sport. I won't be surprised if Colleague Racing could step up to the plate and take over that charter. Now, another option could be someone could buy that charter and maybe then sell it off or loan it to someone else. We saw that happen with Richard Petty Motorsports. I think they sell, or at least they loan a charter to Spire Motorsports. Or a possibility that a brand new team out of nowhere could come up and buy that charter. Now, it could be an existing team from the Xfinity Series or the Truck Series, or it can just be a brand new team out of the blue like 2311 Racing. But I do believe that if it were to head to that direction, a whole completely new team that hasn't been in the Cup Series, I look at Junior Motorsports. Now, I know Junior Motorsports, they have been a hot topic of wanting to be in the Cup Series. The only issue was that it was money. There was too much money for them to buy a charter. It wasn't worth the risk. Who knows? Maybe 2-3 years down the line, prices may go down or whatever the case may be. They might sell it for not as high of a price because if they do sell the charter, someone's going to buy it regardless. Who knows? Maybe if the price is within Junior and Junior Motorsports' range, they may take up on that offer and buy that charter and move up to the Cup Series in a couple years. Now, the bad thing about everything that I'm saying is that it's all hypothetical. It's all hypothetical. We don't know. There are no announcements. There has been no real concrete evidence that JTG is going to leave the sport. The only thing we know that is for sure, according to Jordan Bianchi, that is 100% factual, is that JTG has had discussions, has had conversations about leaving the sport. That's it. They have had only talks. They haven't said anything concrete about officially leaving the sport. Who knows? Maybe they won't leave the sport. We don't know. But the fact that they've had this much talk for such a long period of time, that's the part that is so shocking to me and that's so intriguing to me, is that they've had talks for such a long time. You don't sell your team, or you don't think about selling your team in a year or even 6 months, whatever the case may be. It takes a while. You think about it for some time. And I won't be surprised after the events of 2019 and 2020, when they had that second car as an open charter, they probably looked at that avenue and thought, hey, maybe it's better to just sell out, or not sell out, but sell the team and, take the money and ride off into the sunset. That I won't be surprised if JTG has had those talks. On top of that, very little to no factory support from Chevrolet. I mean, they could go to a new manufacturer, but I don't know. The more I think about this, the more it makes sense, and the less surprising it would be if JTG were to leave the sport. Because again, they're not improving, they're not gaining, they're just there. They're just in the middle. But it's going to be very interesting to see how JTG performs this season, how it will affect in their future seasons if they were to leave the sport. Because if that's the case, then Ricky Stenhouse Jr. doesn't have a ride. Let's say if JTG does leave, where does Ricky go? He's got no ride. But yeah, this just opens up another whole can of worms for NASCAR silly season. I thought we were done with silly season. We're less than 7 days away until the Clash, and we're still talking about silly season. It's absolutely mental. But that is going to conclude this episode of Inside the Lines. Guys, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe for more comment. Tell me in the comment section down below what are your thoughts on any of the stories I talked about. But until next time, my name is Jet, and I'll see you next time.